Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're talking about something that affects pretty much all of us, whether we realize it or not. Why is it that we can sit down with a bag of cookies, a basket of bread, or a plate of pasta, and suddenly we've eaten way more than we intended? I'm talking about flour-based foods and why they're so incredibly hard to resist. So here's the thing. There's actual science behind why you can't stop at just one slice of pizza, or why that croissant seems to call your name every morning. And I'm not here to make you feel guilty about eating these foods. I just want to break down what's actually happening in your body and brain when you eat them. Because once you understand it, a lot of things start to make sense. Let's start with what happens the moment flour hits your system. When you eat bread, pasta, pastries, or really anything made with refined flour, your body breaks it down into glucose incredibly fast. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that white bread has a glycemic index of around 75, which means it spikes your blood sugar almost as quickly as pure glucose. That's faster than a candy bar in some cases. Now, why does this matter? When your blood sugar spikes rapidly, your pancreas releases a surge of insulin to deal with all that glucose. This insulin does its job, sometimes a little too well, and your blood sugar can actually drop below where it started. This is called reactive hypoglycemia, and it creates this really specific feeling that we all know but might not recognize. You know that sensation about an hour or two after eating when you suddenly feel hungry again, maybe a bit tired, a little irritable. That's your blood sugar crashing, and your brain is literally screaming for more quick energy. And what does it want? More refined carbs, more flour-based foods. It's a cycle! A fascinating study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition in 2013 used MRI scans to look at what happens in the brain after people consume high glycemic foods versus low glycemic foods. What they found was remarkable. 4 hours after eating high glycemic meals, which included refined flour products, the areas of the brain associated with reward and craving lit up, like a Christmas tree, specifically the nucleus accumbens, which is the same region that activates with addictive substances. The researchers noted that these foods triggered intense cravings and increased hunger, far beyond what the body actually needed for energy. But it's not just about blood sugar. There's something else happening with flour-based foods, and it has to do with how they're processed. See, when wheat is refined into white flour, almost all the fiber, vitamins, and minerals are stripped away. What you're left with is basically pure starch. The average slice of white bread contains less than 1 gram of fiber, while a slice of true whole grain bread might have 3 to 4 grams. That difference is huge because fiber slows down digestion and keeps you feeling full longer. A comprehensive study published in Nutrition Reviews analyzed data from over 130,000 participants and found that for every additional serving of refined grains consumed daily, there was an associated weight gain over time. Meanwhile, whole grain consumption was associated with less weight gain. The researchers concluded that refined grains, particularly flour-based products, promote overeating because they don't trigger the same satiety signals that whole foods do. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Let me talk about something called food reward. This is a concept that explains why some foods are just incredibly hard to stop eating. Flour-based foods, especially when combined with fat, sugar, or salt, hit what scientists call a superstimulus. Think about it. Pizza has refined flour, fat from cheese, salt, sometimes sugar in the sauce. Donuts have refined flour, sugar, and fat. Croissants, cookies, cakes. They're all engineered, whether intentionally or not, to be irresistible. Dr. Stéphane Guyenet, a neuroscientist who studies food reward and obesity, has extensively researched how our brains respond to these combinations. He points out that our ancestors never encountered foods that were simultaneously high in refined carbohydrates and fats. These combinations are relatively new in human history, and our brains haven't evolved to regulate our intake of them properly. When we eat these foods, our brain's reward system goes into overdrive, releasing dopamine and creating a pleasurable experience that we naturally want to repeat. There's also research suggesting that wheat contains compounds that might have opioid-like effects. When gluten proteins are digested, they break down into peptides called gluteomorphins. Some studies, including one published in the Journal of Applied Nutrition, suggest these peptides can cross the blood-brain barrier, and bind to opioid receptors. Now, the effect is nowhere near as strong as actual opioids, but it might contribute to why bread and pasta can feel genuinely comforting, and why some people describe feeling addicted to these foods. And please, if you're finding this information helpful, hit that like button. It really helps more people discover this content. Let's talk numbers for a second, because I think this puts things into perspective. The average person in Western countries consumes somewhere between 60 to 70% of their daily calories from processed foods, and refined flour products make up a significant portion of that. According to data from the USDA, the average American consumes about 132 pounds of wheat flour per year. That's roughly 10 pounds per month. When you break it down, that's a lot of bread, pasta, crackers, and baked goods. The challenge is that these foods are everywhere. They're convenient, they're relatively cheap, and they taste good. Food companies have figured out the exact formulas that make these products almost irresistible. There's actually a term for it in the food industry, the bliss point. This is the precise combination of sugar, fat, and salt that maximizes deliciousness and makes you want to keep eating. So what's actually happening in your body when you're eating that third slice of pizza or reaching for another cookie? Beyond the blood sugar roller coaster, refined flour products don't provide the nutrients your body is actually looking for. Your body has nutrient sensors, and when it's not getting what it needs, like vitamins, minerals, protein, healthy fats, it keeps signaling hunger. You might feel full in your stomach, but your body is still nutritionally hungry, so the cravings continue. Research from Yale University's Rudd Center for Food Policy found that highly processed foods, including those made with refined flour, can actually alter the brain's reward pathways over time. Regular consumption of these foods can lead to a tolerance effect, meaning you need more of them to get the same satisfaction. This is remarkably similar to how tolerance works with addictive substances. Now, I want to be clear about something. I'm not saying flour is evil or that you should never eat bread again. That's not realistic or even necessary for most people. What I am saying is that understanding why these foods affect us the way they do gives us power. When you know that eating a bagel for breakfast might leave you ravenous, 2 hours later, you can plan accordingly. Maybe you add some protein, some healthy fats, some fiber to slow down that glucose spike. The research consistently shows that when people switch from refined grains to whole grains, or when they balance their flour-based foods with other nutrients, they report feeling more satisfied, having fewer cravings, and finding it easier to maintain a healthy weight. A study in the Public Health Nutrition Journal followed participants who made this switch and found significant improvements, not just in weight management, but in energy levels and mood stability throughout the day. So the bottom line is this: flour-based foods taste amazing because they're designed to, either by nature or by food scientists. They spike our blood sugar, trigger our reward centers, and leave us wanting more before we've even finished digesting them. They're easy to overeat because they lack the fiber and nutrients that would normally tell our bodies we've had enough. And in our modern food environment, they're absolutely everywhere. Understanding this doesn't mean you have to give up your favorite foods. It just means you're equipped with knowledge. You know why that pasta dish is so satisfying. You understand why you're reaching for the bread basket. And with that awareness, you can make choices that work for your body and your life. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel for more content like this. I'll see you in the next one.